Here we are, the three of us. We've been doing this now, not necessarily narrative together, that we've been doing that for a year or so, but before that and how we found each other and came together, it's been about a 5-year outward journey for the three of us that have been on the front lines of this sort of information war that we're in. This is why Alex Jones took information wars, because they knew an information war was coming. So this narrative warfare, and in the space that, if everyone can recollect, 5 years ago, when it comes to Twitter and social media, Facebook had its own lane, Twitter has its lane. But the very bad guy that is an asset of a foreign power and also came out of the womb of organized crime and ended up being elected president, this is his space that he operated in until he got booted. So in order to counter his horse shit and be in there with him, we had to join in and add our voice to this. In the process of that, this whole thing has evolved. We all started out with, okay, we know something really bad has happened here. Let's try to figure it out, because we were not getting the full story from the traditional news sources, just to bring it back around to how we were complaining still about them. A lot of that was just being overwhelmed. A lot of it was they'd been co-opted to be entertainment news instead of real journalism for quite a long time. So, and no one really saw it because we didn't have a crisis like we did with this presidency, this former presidency. So we all dove in and we just tried to piece it together. Zev had his piece. I had my piece. Greg had his piece. There was probably, I would say, a good 20 to 30 of us, if you really boil it down. There were a lot of people adding stuff in, but the people who were really unpacking and piecing it together outwardly, openly, and with one another, it wasn't that big of a number. That's where we started. Then it evolved into, okay, we got the story now. We all had to figure out how to get the story out there. Zev launched narrative. I started doing these massive threads, pulling all the research together, and then working on projects that have taken time to come into fruition. Greg had a medium, right? And then that evolved into Prevail. So we had these platforms we were building that could go with our social media on Twitter, that could actually then start telling the story so people could get it, right? That's where now it's like, now we have to look at this. Okay, we're telling the story. The story's being told. We've really been clear about it. What now? Where are we at now with this very unique form of activism that actually is about being an influencer, right? None of us wanted to be influencers. We stepped into the role of being influencers. You guys listened to us and elevated us to that because of our followers, they put us there, which was a gift, because they said, okay, we believe you. We think you've got you've got it. And so we're going to elevate your voice and keep sharing your voice. And we're so grateful for all that, and be in this with us. So now we have this voice, we have these platforms, we have a lot of power. We really do. And the question is now, how are we going to use that the most effectively, and to start unpacking what it is to be an influencer in this space, and what it means, and what the responsibility of that is. I saw a very dear friend of mine, as you guys may have saw or been aware of yesterday, speak from the role of influencer and say pressure works, because we had all been putting our voice and our pressure onto the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, to just fucking talk to us, and also communicate to us about what you're doing. It's not about compromising an investigation. That, again, is conflation. Don't listen to anybody conflating that. They're out to destroy the narrative. They're out to destroy the discourse. It's just as bad as Jake Tapper wanting us to all get into the fields of the unvaccinated and somehow give that power. Okay? The people who are trying to shut down the voices of influencers who are now saying, hey, our voice mattered, right? It matters. Keep it up. We now need to, I think, be real clear about what that voice is, how to direct it, and what to do about the attacks that we're getting from people that don't want us to believe that our voice matters in any way, shape, or form, because they somehow well of expertise about the inner workings of the Justice Department, that inside their argument they're saying no one can really know what this is but me, right? So I want to take a break. I want to come back. I want to think about that, of like, why is that productive? Why is it productive to shoot down the encouragement of raising up our voices? How is that? What the fuck is that, everybody? Why are you doing that? There's a lot of crossfire going on right now between people in all kinds of corners of what used to be a collective, and they're viciously attacking one another and spending all of their time doing that. From that to then coming at Allison Gill and telling her that her voice doesn't matter, it doesn't have any impact, and she just doesn't understand the way that the Justice Department works. This patronization. So, oh yeah, it was bad. So what I think there's a thing to think about and discuss is, how can we stop collapsing, conflating the kind of cries like what Greg and I have taken out to the table saying, Merrick Garland, talk to us, come talk to us. Guess what? We're in a narrative warfare. How do we know this? Because what I just said, for the last 5 fucking years, we've been fighting this war. You can't leave a vacuum of silence and win. Look what fills it up. Look what the other people, they're loud. The enemies are loud. The people who want us to die are loud. Ron DeSantis is loud. He wants death and death of children. Greg Abbott and all his handmaidens, loud. They're loud. They're filling the void with their nonsense, with their memes, with their horseshit, with their bullshit. And they're radicalizing people to the degree that we have a domestic terror threat in this nation that coming up on the 20-year anniversary of 9/11 is far greater than any threat we faced outside. That was what? I know that was a big act of violence, and over 2,000 people were gone in a second. 600, 700, 800,000 Americans are dead from the people who are conjoined in this. We're going to destroy America from within as domestic actors with help from foreign influence by just using a loud voice and weaponizing people.
That is a good place to take a commercial break, and it's really interesting. That's really interesting. Well said. Thanks for supporting Narrative. If quality and craftsmanship is important to you, you should check out today's sponsor, Made In. Made In is a cookware and kitchenware brand that works with renowned chefs and artisans to produce some of the world's best pots, pans, knives, and wine glasses. The best chefs around the world use Made In cookware and kitchenware to create all the best tasting restaurant quality meals. Made In sources the finest material and partners with renowned craftsmen to make premium kitchen tools available directly to you without the markup. Their cookware distributes heat evenly and transitions from stovetop to the oven with absolute ease. And their knives are fully forged, perfectly balanced, and stay sharp. Pots, pans, knives, and wine glasses produced by Made In are among the best in the world. They are built to last and offer a lifetime warranty. They have 28,000 plus 5-star reviews, and their products are used by some of the world's best chefs at Michelin-starred restaurants around the world. Made In, better cookware for better meals. And right now, Made In is offering our listeners and viewers, that means you, 15% off your first order with promo code NARRATIVE, NARATIV. That is the best discount code available anywhere online for Made In products. Go to madeincookware.com/narrative and use the code narrative for 15% off. That was so provocative, LB, before we went into the break. That's so interesting what you're saying, because it is a difficult space, because the enthusiasm is not as high as it was when we had Trump to get rid of. I
feel like the anger is higher, though. It's an interesting thing. Instead of continuing to find the framework to continue to put the information out, that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep putting it out there and keep laying the bricks, right? I have that metaphor of it's like you're in Oz, right? And nobody knows they're in Oz. It's like, okay, guys, I know that there's been 100 years of history of how the world really works, and it's been kept from you. And so we're gonna lay these bricks down and keep and put it in a pattern and get from A to Z so that you can have all the information and walk that, so that you can walk that path and see the pattern and know the brick as it's getting laid down and feel it underneath your feet and be really grounded in what the truth is and what the stakes are and what we're actually up against. And to keep the focus there. What are the stakes? What are we up against? Who's our adversary here? How do they win? How do we undermine their tactics and their techniques by putting in place those of ours that we know will work? And a big part of that is raising your voice. A big part of that is we all went through the whole thing and Mueller did a great report. I'm sorry he did, but Pelosi canned it. Why? Why didn't we follow up on that? Why didn't we have more on that? And they said point blank, it's too complex. People can't get it. So we need to keep raising our voice to let them know. Not only do we get all of what we're up against and what's going on and who the players are and who the generals are that for like insurrection specific, we know who planned this. We know it. It's not just right. we need to keep letting our leaders and our Justice Department know and hear from us that, hey, we know what's going, we see what's going on. It's happening in front of our faces. Stop telling us it's not what's happening is not happening for when it comes to the political side of this thing. And when it comes to the Department of Justice things, fill the void with facts and truth without compromising anything. It's possible. It's very possible to do that, or there wouldn't be a press. There wouldn't be a press podium if the Justice Department could only talk after people were in jail. I can't with that.
No, that makes no sense.
Right? It's so
our enemies are using freedom against us, though. That's the thing. And there's a real battle there between how much freedom we can allow in a society that still wants to maintain a certain level of democracy. And that's a tough balance. How are you going to stop all these broadcasters like OAN and Fox and all these networks from bludgeoning people with their propaganda? And how do you stop
raising your voice? Never stop raising your voice. My God, what are we doing here if we're not raising our voices?
There's an account, the account Horse Whisperer. He had a great thread talking about Allison's thing, and everybody should go find that and read it, because it could just inject it right into my veins. Because he's basically, his point is, look, we all have a voice. Everybody has a voice. It's the one thing that we all actually have. And when it sounds dorky, but it's true, when everybody raises their voice collectively, and it's in a focused, coordinated way, it really does make a difference. Which is something that speaking for me, in the last 4 or 5 years, I'm slowly learning things. Like, first of all, you have to repeat things. You have to. You can't just be like, hey, here's this great thing about Jared Kushner and blah, 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 and then never mention it again, because people will forget. Yeah. And you see it with the way things play out. Like Sandy Bacon is a good example. She's been talking about the insurrection since the day it happened. She's not going to stop till those people were in jail, and good for her. And that is the model. She's probably tired of it. She probably gets frustrated doing it, but it's super important that she does it, and it's super important that everybody does it. We've done it with Kavanaugh, okay?
Yeah, you have.
The Kavanaugh
Look,
thing,
we're getting results. We're getting results.
You guys really are. I'm so impressed by that. It's such a interesting thing, seeing that bubble up, and it's going to keep bubbling up because there's no way to keep it down. It's a huge scandal just waiting to erupt.
I sat down for lunch on Tuesday, and I looked at Twitter, and I was Breaking Brett is trending, and I was like, oh shit, what did I do? I think something.
You did something. You're certainly on somebody's radar, that's for sure.
No, but that's the thing. That doesn't trend. I don't make it trend. You guys make it trend.
Yeah.
Right? I'm helping the whatever. But it's a collective effort, is my point. We all have to do it. It's not something that one of us can do. I think that there are certain avenues that we can pursue. And I think Kavanaugh is an avenue. That's a weakness for them, and they know it.
Oh,
they
boy.
know
I think Kavanaugh's one of the weakest things a GOP has.
Drunk lush is a lying sack of shit as a weakness.
Yeah.
They know it. They do not want us talking about him. And the piece is, every time something comes out about him, even in the slightest way, I'll write something a little bit different than the thing before that circles back on stuff we already know. And it gets a little closer to the...
Yeah.
That's very smart. And Chris Wray, attached to that little scandal.
That's how you do it.
He's got issues around that scandal.
The Kavanaugh scandal could take out Kavanaugh and Chris Wray. Which should be an enormous net positive for democracy.
Yeah, you'd think so. You'd think so. That would be pretty impressive. But there's also just the reality of there's people, there's women who obviously have complained about Kavanaugh to the FBI, and that their whole complaints disappeared. And there is a monstrous scandal brewing there that really needs to be exposed, and it will be exposed. There's no ways they can even get into I see how they're going to get into an abortion case or anything like that with this scandal brewing around him. It's just not going to work, and it's just going to keep coming.
And I think the thing to do with this is here's just to give everyone listening advice, because I looked at the thing during the ad break, and people were like, stay on this topic about how there's crossfire, and there's people trying to come in to say, how dare you think you know anything? You don't even know who the fuck I am, so fuck off. How dare you think you can talk to me that way? Like, even engaging like that is just destructive. It's disintegrates, right? It dissipates the core, and we need a really solid core right now that knows how to aim and knows how to fire, and we'll just keep going until we break through. So with the Kavanaugh thing, the piece of this It's not that it's Greg and we didn't start this whole thing way back when. During his actual confirmation hearing, we started doing this, right? Which had nothing to do, keep breaking up, sorry guys, which had nothing to do with, it was before Blasey Ford even. It was like, oh my God, he's a criminal. So the thing about Brett is, it's not that he's a radical judge, which he is. It's not that he's an extremist, which he is. It's not that he's incompetent on every level. It's that he is. It has nothing to do with the fact that he got appointed by a Republican. It's none of that. We can have issues with those other conservative justices, and it can fall into that camp of who put them on there and what was their goal and all these conservative justices. That's not Brett Kavanaugh. Brett Kavanaugh is a criminal. Brett Kavanaugh is a drunk. Brett Kavanaugh is an assaulter. I believe that he's an assaulter, a massive assaulter, and I think there's a lot of things. But most importantly, what we can prove about Brett Kavanaugh is that he's a perjurer.
Yeah.
He's a perjurer. And in his perjury could very possibly be massive fraud and other crimes that he's trying to cover up and not admit to. So this is a criminal. This is a criminal on the Supreme Court.
Who was installed during a criminal act.
The problem.
Because he should never have been there had it not been for that cover-up with Wray and Trump covering up for him. And that's the thing. It's a crime within a crime and a crime.
Yeah,
like it's
listen,
just.
I'm going to say this. Yeah. I'm going to say this. We don't even know. This is the focus. I think everyone should. If you want a laser focus, here's your laser focus. So that FBI investigation, when the FBI does investigations, we learned this from Frank Figliuzzi. We've learned this from others. If we listen, they tell us. That when it comes to vetting the Supreme Court justices or doing any kind of investigation around a Supreme Court justice for that particular thing is a different kind of FBI investigation. It actually has a different client. The client is not the American people, if we want to think about it in terms of clients. They're doing that for the office of the presidency, not necessarily the president, I don't think, for the office of the presidency.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
We don't know if Wray provided Donald with a full and complete profile. We know he didn't perform a full and complete investigation, but we don't know what he gave to Donald.
He gave him a tip line. He gave him all the tip line information.
We don't know if he did.
We do.
We don't know what
he gave it to the White House.
We know that he had a tip line.
Yeah,
but
he gave
we
it to
don't
the White
know
House.
what. Have you seen it? I haven't seen the product.
I'd love to see it. I think Sheldon Whitehouse said it was the garbage chute that he put it down in the White House. So
there we go.
Yeah,
that's where I'm going. That's my laser focus.
We need to see it. We need to see it. Absolutely.
We need to see it.
I love what you're saying.
Let's see what actually got in front of Donald. Because if a complete thing didn't get put in front of Donald, then Donald has a right to be pissed at Wray. It's like you were supposed to tell me whether this guy what's up with this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Then he's got to
we don't
beef with
know
him too, of course. But what I like what you're saying about this is you guys have started this fire with Kavanaugh. But we have lots of other people who watch us and follow you guys. And what I found so, truly gratifying about doing journalism on Twitter versus doing journalism elsewhere is the crowd, is the ability for people to pile on with additional information and do their own research. And the things about Kavanaugh, have at him. Go for it. Go after Kavanaugh. Research every little bit of his life. We've got thousands of people watching right now. Find an hour in your day. Dig into something about Kavanaugh's life, because I bet you're going to find something interesting. And the same crowd effort that we are doing on so many things, like this story I did about the bear in Pennsylvania, that was a crowd-based story. A lot of the crowd was there helping me get it. That's how you do it. So let's just build on what Greg and LB have started here, add your voices, change the story, build on the story, make it bigger, and amplify it every time you see it. That's a way to get Kavanaugh out of his office, I think.
Here are some things that he said under oath. He said that he paid for the down payment using his thrift savings plan, which had $72,000 in it, and the down payment was 220 something. That's a lie. That's a fucking lie. He said that the Devil's Triangle was a drinking game. Lie. He said boof means something that it does not mean. That's a lie. He said he's never once in his life drunk so much that he blacked out.
Lie.
He could probably even add this week, and it would be a lie. Maybe. We don't know.
How do you remember?
Because let's just say I've heard. I don't know. I don't think he's not drinking these days. I think he's still.
No reason why he would stop drinking.
Okay. Yeah. He said he never ever.
No, he never drank. That's right. He never drank.
He said he drank, but he said he never blackout drunk or anything like that. And he said that he never did any gambling. Well, the entire time he was on the court, he never did any gambling at all, including sportsbook, including the way that he phrased it. It was like if he bet $200 in fantasy football, he's lying. And I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can find out about that. The other thing is, in his 2006 hearing, which is what Leahy was trying to bring up and what Cory Booker was bringing up, he also lied about the torture and his involvement in that. That's a whole other level of lying. And there's no reason that we can't go back to that and pull that up and start looking at that, as Greg and I did in one of the articles. So
one more thing.
He's a liar. He's a liar under oath.
Yeah.
Just to pivot slightly, people are writing it about Sheldon Whitehouse, Senator Whitehouse, who's doing a great job talking about the dark money.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that people can do in terms of the narrative war that we talk about. Okay, I've written about Leonard Leo. Before I wrote about him, not that long ago, like 6 months ago, 8 months ago or something, I knew the name, but I really didn't know very much about him. If I don't know about him, and he's so adjacent to all this stuff, probably most Americans have never heard of him and don't know who he is and how much power he has and how all this dark money stuff works. And I know a lot of it is complicated, but what isn't complicated when you're telling stories is a character. This guy literally looks like the Penguin from the Batman. I mean, he is a movie villain looking dude. And that's the kind of guy that I think doesn't want to be in the spotlight in the way that he could be in the spotlight.
Well, he's going to be in the spotlight, that's for sure.
I suspect that the more light that's shown on him, the more uncomfortable he would get with it. And maybe this whole dark money octopus that he's built will self-destruct. So I think that's a really useful thing. I think the more people know who he is. Now, one of the things I learned from Kurt Anderson, who was on my show a couple weeks ago and reading Evil Geniuses, is that they use, everybody says, oh, it's Koch money. Oh, it's the Kochtopus. Oh, it's the Koch brothers. It's almost, Koch brothers is almost like a metonym for all of the dark money. And I think it's really important to start naming who the other forces are.
That's exactly right.
Right.
That
Jane Mayer did a great job
like,
of that in the New Yorker. I was really surprised by the people she put out there in that last piece that she did. Just to put a little button on this, because I think it's important. Why this is important. It's not about Kavanaugh. It's about the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is going to have a lot of say about everything going forward. It's going to have a lot of say in every election from now on, because that's just the way the system has now evolved, which is terrible. But it's just that's the nature of our system right now. We need a Supreme Court that's balanced, and we need a Supreme Court that's fair. We cannot have this biased, stacked court that they've put up there with Kavanaugh and all these other crazy people to judge these things, because they know they're not going to do it ethically. Look what they did with abortion now. It's just, not only is Roe versus Wade going to be an issue for them, not only is every election going to be an issue for them, but freedom in general is going to be an issue for them. And whether we turn into a Christian ethnic state is going to be an issue for them. So we really need to get some balance in this Supreme Court. And it wasn't done fairly by the other side. So this is fair game. This is fair game to go after Kavanaugh and absolutely anyone else that they installed in there when they should have put the people that were due to be in there when they were first nominated by Barack Obama.
Let me put a button on that. The thing that we need to stop doing or defeat or point our guns at as well are the voices coming out that are telling us that we don't do those kinds of, we can't just be like they are. Then you just want us to be like they are, right? That's not what we do. No. Everybody needs to pay attention, really pay attention. I've said this, I say this over and over again, but it's one of those things you have to keep repeating. Everyone who who has expertise, who has studied it, who has worked even in contemporary sort of oligarchy or fascistic states, all of these experts have been telling us that we are really on the precipice of losing democracy. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them is telling us this. They are raising the alarm. They have been raising the alarm all this time. We need to listen to them and understand that's the fight. That's the fight. Those are the stakes. Yep. And so no one's saying, do the dirty business that the other side does. That we're saying, stop telling us that by going after the criminality of these criminals that we're somehow playing dirty. That's their game. They have convinced people that by holding them accountable for their criminality, by going after their dark money sources, by exposing and putting daylight on it, by bringing the truth to the surface, that somehow that's the way, that's a dirty game. That needs to stop.
You have to be thinking out of the box. We have to be doing things differently.
We have to be creative. We have to try things, and we have to hold these criminals to account. Do not swallow the narrative that somehow makes us their equivalent. As I say, and I borrowed it from someone, I don't remember who it was because it was years ago, when they go low, bury them.
Oh, that's a great line. We're going to have to stop there because that's such a good line. We can go over a little bit if you want, but we are out of time. But I feel like I'm stopping a great conversation, so I'm not going to do that. Go ahead, Greg.
I forget what I was going to say.
You're going to say that. I could tell you're ready for something.
No, it was something in the. I was going to say it's not going low. Exactly what LB said. It's not going low to be like, hey, Kavanaugh, who paid for your fucking down payment? Because you didn't tell us. Mm-hmm. We need to know. If it's your dad, fine, but you got to tell us. It's not
and then
playing dirty
it's not going
to demand
low.
that we know if our Supreme Court justice is compromised.
But he was
that's not going low. Is when Brett Kavanaugh himself suggested to Ken Starr, hey, when we're grilling Bill Clinton on the stand, let's read the blowjob details out loud so that all of the American people can hear it.
Right.
That's going low. And that's what Kavanaugh did. That was his idea. Okay? That's the guy that we're dealing with. So it's not trying to figure out who owns and who finances all this shit is not going low. It's what we need to do for democracy to survive.
Right. Yep.
Period.
And then making a demand of our political leaders and our Justice Department and the FBI, head of Director Chris Wray, to bring us the truth about all of that is also not doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that needs to stop. Stop shutting down the voices that are calling. You want to be supportive? You want to get behind the people who want to save this country and save democracy? Then help wall us off from this noise that comes at us every time we say, hey, talk to us. This noise of like, you want to compromise the investigation the way that other people compromise. Get in there and fucking shut that shit down with us, right? Because that's an intentional conflation to weaponize us. To turn us into the bad guy instead of fucking Kavanaugh or these criminals from January 6th or the generals. We need to start hearing about this. We just need our leaders and in the administration, on the Hill, in the Justice Department to talk to us and fill the information void, the abyss from all this silence, fill it with facts, fill it with information, fill it with a communication to the people about how we're going to keep upholding the rule of law in this nation. That we're not going to fucking throw the Constitution. We're not going to just say, oh, it's just too hard. Oh, we don't want to hurt their feelings. And, I don't know what we could do. Oh, what can we do? Right? Because that's how it's coming off. It's coming off.
Somebody wrote a memo in 1970.
Yeah, you're right.
Someone wrote, we don't think we can do this. Right? The paralysis, the silence is coming off as paralysis. The silence is giving the other side a win, the silence itself, right? Yeah. So no one ever has been, and AG wasn't doing this either. No one has ever said to behave the way the other side behaves. All we've said is we're going to keep raising our voices. We know that they need to be heard, and we know that pressure does work. And what we're trying to get to work is not just for action to be taken, but for us to be spoken to. Open up your fucking mouths and talk to us.
Yep. And have some accountability. I just find Chris Wray still being in that position in the middle of a scandal is offensive. He should step down, or at least step aside until the investigation has been done. It's not okay for him to be involved in a scandal to appoint a Supreme Court justice who, in an illegal scheme. It's just, he's the FBI director. How can he be there? And I had time for Chris Wray. I certainly did before this came out. But after this, you can't look at Chris Wray and say, this guy's legit and it should be in that role. How can we have a free and fair investigation into anything with him being there?
Well, we don't know. So we need to see what product he put in front of Donald, right? Because it was ultimately Donald. But if he didn't put a solid product in front of him that was all those thousands of chips, and it was clear, this is what this guy's into, this is what this guy's done. If there were, I can't imagine that of over 4,000 tips, there wasn't something coming in talking about Brett's lies. In fact, I actually know there were some tips coming in.
There must have been lots of information.
There was a lot of information in there, and I think we need to see it so we can evaluate what Donald got, what he saw, what was the result of that. Jeff Flake was the one who was like, okay, all right, we'll do an investigation. Okay, FBI, let's do it. Right? But we never got to see it. We never learned a goddamn thing about it.
It barely existed. Happened. It was a blink of an eye and it was gone.
And why did Jeff do that? Because people raised their voices at him, right?
Because people raised their voices at him.
And this is the thing too. And Zev, I know we want to wind down, but I wrote this in the piece this week. It's the Democrats, especially. They need to realize The Kavanaugh stuff is popular. Democrats who take this on and do this will get reelected forever. It's going to be like a thing. You want posterity? Your name's going to be in the history book if you can expose this guy. That's it. Everybody will love you.
Yeah, it's a great issue. It's going to get even bigger. It's got great potential. It can be achieved. It's actually an achievable goal, and it has significant impact beyond itself. Like beyond getting Kavanaugh out of the Supreme Court would mean a fairer Supreme Court, a more just society, more chance for democracy and freedom to exist. Yada. It's has all the goodies that you want as a candidate, as a supporter of any candidate. So push your candidates to do that. I do have to go. Unfortunately, I have to go. This is a great conversation. I love tonight's show, as I always do with you guys, but I have to wrap it up. So we'll Narratives back now Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So you got three narratives a week.
Wow.
Prevail is on, and today was amazing with Noel Kassler. You had the whole 9/11 remembrance episode. Tell people about that.
Oh yeah, we did. It was just I was in New York on September 11th. I was in Midtown when the towers fell, and I wanted to 20 years ago somehow. So I wanted to tell my story a little bit, and I wanted to hear his story because he's a New York guy, and I really wanted to have him on the show and not talk about the Adderall coming out of Donald Trump's nose, which is I want to talk about something else. That one. And so it was really good. I thought it was a really good show. He's great. Noel's great. He's such a good storyteller.
Amazing guy.
He added so many good stories to it. So it's a good.
There is a story at the end
great.
that was sobbing. There is a story at the. You have to listen to this thing.
You have to listen to the very end.
Really captured it. You got to listen to the end.
People are saying great Prevail on the chat as well. And we don't have the next season yet, but I'll ask, when is it coming?
We don't have the next season yet. I know everybody wants the date. Just understand there's a lot happening with it. And so it's just insane. It's insane. So, and I'm so grateful for the success for everyone. I know that it's these followers here that really were the first consumers and elevated it. And I'm so thankful for you guys. It's a very exciting time, I will say that. And I have another project that I'm having to wrap up that I hopefully will be able to talk to soon in the middle of all of this. So, but I'm getting the dates. I'm working with the studio. We're working with there's a whole thing happening. So I'll get you some dates. It's insane.
Life.
It's great.
Your life. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So that's you don't have an answer, but you're going to get us the dates. So we'll keep.
I'm going to get you dates. Yeah, it won't be before 2022, but it'll be early. It'll be earlier than. It'll be fine. You'll be fine. And we're going to re-release some of those episodes in terms of they're all on the platform. And I'll put some promos out there and I'll keep redirecting everybody to it because it's dense work. And so you can listen to it more than once.
Oh, yeah. You have to sometimes. I listened to a couple and I was like, I have to do this one more time. It's so much story. And I want to thank Matt Fossa again for the opening theme. I'm going to play it one more time as we head out tonight. And be inspired by that. Do something about Kavanaugh this weekend and do something about Kavanaugh every day. And we'll see you again next week on Narrative. Thanks for being here tonight. Good night, everybody.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, Ev.
Thank you, guys.
Happy birthday.